Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of New World Comics Podcast. Unless it's your first episode, then welcome to episode 1. I am Buck Berlin, owner-operator of New World Comics. Joined with me is Stephanie Cerny.
What's up?
And with us is the voice of God, Brad Reed of Nerdstom fame.
Blessings.
Joining us today is Jerry Bennett.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jerry Bennett.
No.
Jerry, love me. Love me, Jerry.
No, we have Steve Handy.
Hello, hello.
Yay.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you.
No.
So before we get into who you are and what you do and all that stuff,
Sure.
How often do you get stopped for Jerry Bennett?
Oh, I can't tell you, especially in here, but can I tell a quick story?
Please.
Yeah.
So after I met Jerry, we both had very big beards, and we shaved them, but I still had my beard at the time, the big bushy beard. And I go to a Target. I go to get a cup of coffee. I walk up, and the barista looks at me and goes, "Is your name Jerry?" And I'm like, "I'm not Jerry Bennett. No, I'm not." And she's like, "Well, you look just like," yeah, I know, I get that. But she wanted to show me that she had won at a drawing, one of Jerry's pen and ink drawings that he had done of I think it was the Star Wars, I forget who it was now, the Mercenaries. Mm-hmm. And she was so proud of this, and she wanted to show it but she thought for sure I was Jerry Bennett.
Oh.
Yeah, but hey, I'll take it. Sure.
Oh.
I could be Jerry. If I had the talent.
I do love when he first started, becoming more of a regular here.
Mm-hmm.
One of our regular customers absolutely confused you for him, and went up and was like, "Hey, what do you think about this and this and
Right,
this?"
and I was like, "It's a good, I guess." What? What?
Yeah.
He asked me all these about drawing things. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then it took me a second, and then I was like, "Oh no, I'm not Jerry." And he's
Yeah.
like, "What? What?" And then there was the gentleman that was standing looking at the comics, and I was kind of picking one out, and he taps me on the shoulder, and goes, "Hey, my daughter really appreciates that drawing you made for her. It's fantastic." And I was like, "I'm not Jerry. I'm sorry." But yeah, it's happened a few times.
Yeah, just as personable, if not more so. And the smell, such an improvement. Such an improvement.
He's got such a better laugh, though.
Yeah.
He really does.
Oh my God,
he has a great laugh.
Yeah. We joke about Jerry. We love Jerry, but he's not here, so we get to make our fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, if he was here, we'd still be making our fun. But
He would just laugh too.
He would.
He's
He'd
like,
love
"Oh,
it.
you're so bad."
He'd love it.
Exactly what he would say.
Yeah.
I could just hear him saying that.
No doubt.
Bad. Yeah, you're bad. You're bad. Yeah.
See, I could be Jerry if I just had 9 kittens around me. That'd be
Yeah.
perfect. That would be just like Jerry.
He only kept 2.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm
He
surprised
found homes for the rest of them.
Well, good for him. I'm surprised he gave away, 7 cats he gave away.
All right, let's get back on track.
Right,
Steve,
No,
why don't you
I
tell
want
us?
to talk about cats for an hour.
Okay, so New World Comics and Cats now.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
With laser
Yes.
beams.
Happy Catterday to all. No.
Saturday is Saturday.
Oh, pardon me.
Duh.
Oh, your Unikitty and
Oh.
Batgirl fell over.
They're fine.
Yep. Sorry.
They're just
for
playing.
those that don't watch this, we have a table full of toys in case we get distracted and start
bored.
playing with things. Yeah. Hopefully we don't get bored, because if we get bored, then they get bored.
Nah, no
But
kidding.
yeah. All right. So back on track.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do and that kind of stuff?
Okay, so my name's Steve Handy. I currently work for a large aircraft manufacturing company that we won't mention. Retired Air Force. I was in Air Force for 26 years and some change. And right now I work for this company, and in my spare time I spend most of it honestly hanging out in here and enjoying the comics and the camaraderie and all the cool stuff that you guys do.
Well, but on top of that, like at conventions.
Oh, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's another thing. I am into toys, that kind of collectibles, that kind of stuff. And over the years of collecting, I've amassed quite a bit of it and realized, you know what? I could probably sell some of this stuff and pass this on to someone else who would enjoy it. And you guys gave me the opportunity 4 years ago at the first New World Comic Con, and I was really the first Comic Con I'd ever done. And I thought, hey, I'll set up a table. And ever since then, it's been fantastic. You guys have been great to me. It's been growing exponentially, and so has my table. So, yeah, I'm into, trading collecting and selling and just enjoying the collectibles.
Yeah, you've been my dealer on a couple figures.
Toys.
Yeah.
Toys.
Oh yeah, toys.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. Yeah, action
that's it.
figures.
Action,
and,
yes, of course.
Yeah, super dolls and whatnot.
Yeah, usually I can find that kind of stuff. If you look for something, I'll go out there and look around for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first con. Your daughter was out there.
Yep.
And she's very tiny.
Yes.
She was
Yes.
standing on a chair.
Looking above.
Yeah,
Yeah, because she couldn't see over the stuff that I had put up there. Plus,
because you had so much stuff.
I had a lot of stuff, and I was in a corner, so it was kind of hard to see things, because I was enjoying talking to the other vendors. There was a guy next to me who made these really weird, like, old toys that he repurposed to make dolls and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, Ellen,
they
yeah.
were
It was
they were kind
really-
of terrifying,
They were, but they were
amazing at the
cool.
same time.
Right,
Yeah,
so I'm
and-
like, ooh, I want that.
Well, and if ever you get a chance to talk to him, he has lived a life. Like,
Oh, he was telling me some stories. I was
He
like,
is-
wow.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to him 10, 15 times, and every time it's the, oh my God.
Are you still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the,
Amazing.
wow.
Yeah, he was really cool. So Sarah was there, and she was like helping me out, and she couldn't see over the stuff, so she's literally standing on a chair, kind of scoping out everything. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was too funny.
Yeah, well, and I was starting to kind of curb my toy collecting, and then Stephanie was like, hey, you need to go look at that guy's stuff.
Yeah.
Come on down.
There's a really cool guy in the corner over here. You should check out his
Look
stuff.
at what I
Yeah,
have.
and like,
Wanna buy a watch?
one of my weaknesses is the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, and then to support the cartoon, like I made sure to buy every figure, and it got down
You
to
should.
it got down to the point where I had every character except for Giganta and that Hal Jordan that they did,
And I
and-
still have that jacket.
and you have that Giganta, and it
Super cheap. Good price. Good price.
I make you a good price
For you, my friend.
Yeah.
For you, my friend.
Yeah, but you've been hanging around ever since, and then
Yeah.
I want to say it was 2 years ago that you started, coming in and being more of a regular.
Right, and I just wanted to kind of get more into the comic stuff, and then I realized the kind of stuff you guys did, like the superhero school and the anti-bullying stuff you did at schools, and the giving away the free comics and stuff. I was like, these are people I kind of want to be around because they're doing some good stuff, and I was learning more about comics, and just you guys are nice people, so I was like, yeah,
Well,
let's
thank
hang
you.
out here then.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Steve makes an amazing Thomas Wayne Batman,
Yes.
which much to Stephanie's chagrin, you can see him right here.
What? I'm all for that.
Fun fact about you, Steve isn't your real name.
Well, Stephen is my real middle name, but my first name is a Norwegian name. It's Trond, and it's pronounced in Norwegian Trond. So good luck.
All right.
Or in English, it'll probably be like Trond. That's like my college roommate would. He found out my first name, and then he wrote on the wall, "Walt Disney presents Trond." I was like, "Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate that."
That's amazing.
So people kind of mess that up, and it's anything that'll set you outside of the norm in like basic training. First, my last name is Handy, so that's hey Handy Rap, Handy Wife, Handy Man, and my first name is Trond, and I was like, what the? And then it was like game on. So I kind of go with my middle name Stephen, or Steve, and that's what I go by. It makes it easier for everybody.
Fair enough.
But
now, did you grow up over there? Or, I mean,
yeah, so my dad was in the Air Force, and he met my mom when he was stationed in Norway in 1962. I was born in 63, and we were there for until I was about 10 years old. So in the middle of that, I think it was 1966, my dad went to Vietnam, and we went with him to California. We stayed there while he went to Vietnam, did his tour, came back, and they said, hey, you survived, welcome. Where do you want to go now? You have a kind of a choice. And he's like, back to Norway. So we went back to Norway. And then we stayed there until I was about 10, and then we moved to Michigan, and then he retired, and we ended up in Virginia.
wow.
So we traveled around quite a bit.
That is.
Yep.
That's crazy. Now, was it like the traveling and the military that you started reading comics, or?
Well, I'm glad you brought. See, this is great. It's a great tie-in, Buck. So in Norway, when I was growing up, they only had. There wasn't a whole lot of comics. I mean, there was some. The biggest one was the big kid on the block. There was Walt Disney. So it was a thing called Donald Duck and Company, and it was all these Donald Duck, and it was like it's like the DuckTales is now.
Okay.
Like
Oh.
adventurous, really cool comics, the Beagle Boys, and that's why I brought this one out with the Beagle Boys. But that kind of stuff, and it was like dangerous adventures and stuff. It was really really cool. So we grew up, watching and reading those comics. But they had some other comics like they had like Tarzan, and like they had was it Laurel and Hardy comics, but no, I mean Superman and Batman, but no Marvel.
Yeah.
It was mostly just DC stuff, and it was. The DC stuff that we got then was like from the 50s because they didn't really get to Norway, but they had to be translated.
Yeah.
So they would take these older comics that were out of, that had already been done, they just translate them and then they just reprint them. So I got to, read Batman and Superman, but mostly Batman was my favorite. And then on the base where my dad was stationed in Norway, they had a little commissary and they would get occasional books. And I remember reading Hot Stuff and Richie Rich comics. But no superheroes.
Well, and what people usually don't realize about the old classic cartoon comics is that a lot of the writers and artists and all them were involved in making the comics. So the stories in the comics were just as good and just as valid as what you'd see, on screen.
Oh, okay.
And that's why they were so wildly popular.
Yeah.
It's because the quality was actually there.
Yeah, and the artwork was great, and it was like almost looking at the cartoon. It was that kind of quality.
Right.
And the stories were great. It wasn't like, hey, Mickey goes, like, you watch the...
It's not like the licensed cartoon comics now.
No.
Where, well, I say now, that now they're actually putting some more effort into them. But for 20, 30, 40 years, it was just so the guy who was failing, you threw him on the comics.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. No, but there in Norway, those comics were, like I said, are like the way I can compare them to, anything I can compare them to now would be like DuckTales. The new rebooted. Have you watched any of those?
Yes.
They're really good.
It's amazing.
And David Tennant's in it too. But so those were adventurous. They were actually in danger, and there was actually some cool stuff going on. And they had all the other the really bizarre, like Duckburg, Donald's what is this? Not his nephew, but his cousin who's always lucky. And
Yes.
all of the different sort of weird universe of Donald Duck figures. But yeah, it was pretty cool. So I grew up reading those and Hot Stuff, that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
And then the older Batman. And fun fact, Batman isn't called Batman in Norwegian. His name in Norwegian is Lynvingen, which means lightning wing. That's how, and it doesn't sound very good. but bat in Norwegian is flaggermus. Flaggermusman, that sounds even worse. So that's
I don't know. I'm kind of a Flugmus man myself.
It's like German, the Fledermaus, right?
I love the Fledermaus.
That's the tick figure, the Fledermaus. But so I grew up, reading Batman and stuff now. So these were like the old 50s ones that were reprinted. But my dad would occasionally get a chance to go to Germany because he flew he was a radio operator on an airplane. So he'd fly down to Germany and pick up, no kidding, from American Base Exchange, Batman. So I would get him. First time I'd read Batman in English, but they're updated and he's really cool now. He's like really, the artwork was completely different. Blew me away. It's like, Dad, next time you need to go to Germany, bring more. I was like, I need Batman.
So you were exposed to the comic first and then the show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the show came later because while we were in California, I remember it was 66. Let me back up a little bit. In Norway at the time, they only had one TV station. And it was run by the state, and it ran from 6 p.m. till midnight. And it went like this. News. It was Children's Hour. It was like PBS.
Okay.
Children's Hour, usually puppets and stuff and some locally produced stuff. And then the news, and then some sort of game show, and then like a documentary about woodpeckers or Norwegian wolves or whatever. And then they would play reruns of old American shows like Gunsmoke and stuff like that. And then then it would be some other programs. And at midnight, that was it. So we only had one TV station the whole time I grew up. So we went outside and played. We go to California in 66, and we turn on the TV on Saturday mornings, and it was like I went into a coma. I was like, what? Touche Turtle and all that stuff. It was amazing. And then that's the first time, it was in 1966, I saw Batman for the first time and went, this is... What? That's Batman, And then we left after a year, and we're like, we went back to Norway. I was like, oh, man. Okay.
Oh, man.
And then we ended up moving to Virginia in 1972, 73, and then it was like TV was like, we come home from school, and there'd be the Banana Splits and Speed Racer and all this crazy stuff, and we were just glued to the set most of the time. And then the other comics came in. First time I ever read Marvel.
Yeah.
So there was the Hulk. I was like, oh my, that's the best thing ever. I could kill everybody. So we would have our local kids. We would play, be superheroes, and we'd always fight about who would be the Hulk because no one could beat the Hulk. Come on. So that was that kind of thing, and that's when I would get it to the store on base. It was called a shopette, and it was like a little 7-Eleven kind of thing.
Okay.
You can run in, you can get gum, penny gum, whatever. But they had the rack of comics, and you'd walk in. This is when I got like Gold Key comics, like Magnus the Robot Fighter and the Star Trek comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then all the Marvel stuff. I was like, oh, I have to have that. Metal Men was another one of my favorites growing up, and so that's how I kind of got into that kind of stuff. And then we just played superheroes all the time.
Cool. Now, did you continue on through?
I did when my dad retired in '75, and then we moved to Virginia, and I kept on with it. And then my brother and I were both pretty close in age, so we kept with like X-Men, and that's like I remember John Byrne in the X-Men. So the first time I ever saw a John Byrne drawing was in an E-Man comic, and it was in the very back, and it was called ROG 9000. It was about this robot who was a cop. And in this story, this one particular story is only like 5 or 6 pages. He did something on a subway, and there was a witch, and she turned him into a human, and he was like, what is this? And it was just really cool in the way, I liked the way he drew, and it was really neat. And then I discovered...
Yeah, we'll get to your X-Men stuff here in a bit. I want to get a little bit more about so the military, like growing up in it.
Yep.
Did that influence you like directly into going into service, or was there something else that happened? Or
well, yeah, because I grew up. That's all I knew growing up, and I remember. My dad would take me on the airplane that he flew on, and I was always around it, so I thought that was normal. Hey, my dad wears a uniform, and that's what all the other kids do. And then we lived on an Air Force base up in Michigan, and it was Oscoda, Michigan. Yeah, if you look at Michigan as the mitten, we're about right about there, right there. and it was upstate Michigan, and it was mostly that town was run, populated by military people, and you grew up in that. And then when my dad retired, I was in Virginia. I went to Virginia Commonwealth University after I got out of high school. And did that for a little while, and I was working, putting myself through school, and it was just too much. And I thought, you know what? If I join the military, they'll pay for my education, that kind of thing. It's been good to me. Why not? And I joined the Air Force to see the world, and then I got stationed at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma.
How'd that work out for you?
The cultural center of the universe. Actually, you got stuck.
According to Hoyt Axton, we in fact are the cultural.
Yeah, we cultural center of the universe. But I got stationed here at Tinker flying on AWACS. So I was an airborne radar technician, and I got to see the planet. Honestly, I've set foot on every continent with the exception of Antarctica.
Slacker.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know. We couldn't land the E3 down there. But yeah, we've been everywhere, and we TDY, and it was just... Yeah,
were it me, I would have had some sort of emergency landing.
I got to go.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. No, so growing up, the military was really good to me. It was a great career. I loved flying, and, it was kind of a Gucci job. You get to wear a flight suit and that kind of thing, and, I'm a pilot. Well, I sit right behind the pilot. 50 feet behind the pilot, but I sit right behind the pilot. It was a great job. I really enjoyed it and got to meet a lot of amazing people, and it kind of shaped who I am today, really, honestly. And I loved it, really did.
Well, cool. You had mentioned your college. There's one story that I want to pick your brain on. You mentioned that you were friends with a lead singer of a band. Yes.
So, a funny story. I was in a fraternity, and it was the only fraternity on campus that was intraracial. So this is 1981, 82. And the fraternities they're either white or African American, and there the twain shall meet. And we were like, we don't want to. Let's start our own thing. So we got a bunch of oddball people together. And Virginia Commonwealth University is two things. It's a liberal arts college, and it also is a channel to if it's a medical pre-med stuff, so it's like a channel to the Medical College of Virginia. So there was a lot of very smart people and a lot of people walking around with tackle boxes and art supplies kind of thing. It was a very weird thing, but I met this guy named Dave, and Dave was an artist, and Dave was a great guy. And Dave Rocky, and if anybody knows anything about the group Gwar. Was the lead singer of Gwar. So Dave Brocky was my fraternity brother. I'll never forget the first time I met him. We're standing out in Schaefer Court. It was like this open court area they'd block off to put, and bands would come out there to play. We saw like Black Flag out there. It was crazy. And Dave's walking out there, and he's got his hair. It's just punk was still big, and he had his hair spiked straight up. I'm like, Dave, what you got in your hair? Soap. I'm like, okay. Okay, Dave. Let's get some beer. So he was a great guy. He was out there, and he started this band called Death Piggy, and it was this. There was just a simple drawing of a pig like this, an angry pig, and it's the only punk band I ever saw that had a trombone player in it. It was bizarre. And so he had a couple of songs, and then fast forward, I'm in the military. I come here to tinker. I'm watching MTV. Kurt Loder comes on. It's like 1987, 88. And it says, this band from VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. And I was like, what? Look over, and there's Dave in this band called Gwar. I'm like, what in the hell? And he had just taken that, and it kind of reminds you of what you do here with all the masks and stuff.
Yeah.
He took this punk band, and he created this whole universe, Odorous Urungus and Gwar, and he made these costumes, and they would just go on stage and go nuts. And it was a show. If anyone has ever seen a Gwar show, it is a show. I mean, there's music and all that, but it's a performance. And it was amazing. And unfortunately, Dave's not around anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so cool. But Dave was definitely an interesting guy. I really liked hanging out with him.
Flowers. Next time we have him on, I'll tell his Gwar story. But he went to a concert right before a final, and he didn't really sleep,
Oh.
and he didn't really shower between going to the concert and the final. So he showed up
Drenched in gore?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Next time he's on, I'll force him to.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Gallagher show. I mean, you got, but it was,
Right.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Gallagher show, like you know.
it's fruit.
You
This
ca-
is
well,
like
yeah.
gore.
Well, it's. I guess at the time maybe it wasn't, but it.
Simulated gore.
Yeah. It's mostly corn syrup and
Yeah, it was.
lotion.
Yeah,
and,
and it didn't wash off very easily.
yeah.
Lots of shirt.
Well,
lots of shirts.
they've now learned that if you mix soap into the fake blood, that
okay.
it washes out. So
Yeah.
they started doing that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. You didn't come out of there unscathed.
Yeah. So, another just kind of fascinating fact about you. You are a magician.
Well, yeah, not practicing right now. It's like, I'm
What are you, a Jedi?
I'm
Yeah, I like how you
druid.
have to qualify that right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So it's like, I'm druid, that kind of thing. Not practicing druidism right now. Reformed.
And I like how you're not the only magician we know.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Cassidy.
crazy.
Like,
yeah.
how do we know
Yeah.
more than one magician?
Yeah, go figure. I had no idea. And then he was talking about it when he was like, "Really?" And it was like, "Zinc." We're syncing up. But so I started doing magic. It was I had a practice marriage many years ago, and my ex-wife was friends with a girl named Carol, and she was married to dating this guy who's a magician. And I thought, okay, whatever, kids parties, rabbit out of hat. And he did this trick, and I was like, what? And he took a lit cigarette, and he took my jacket, and he cuffed a little hole in it, and he dropped the cigarette into the hole in the little divot in the jacket, and crushed it out, and the cigarette disappeared. Cigarette's gone, no hole in the jacket. I was like, what? What did do that again? He did it again. I'm like, what the? How is that possible? This is, I was completely enthralled, and he wouldn't tell me how to do it. Drove me nuts. So my ex-wife was from Chicago. So we were in Chicago at the time, and he said, look, I'll take you to the shop, and it was called Magic Incorporated. And in the magic circles, and anybody knows anything about magic, that is it's kind of like a mecca in Chicago, and there were some amazing magicians that worked. They have such a large library of magic, like Penn and Teller go there to do research, Copperfield. I mean, it's amazing. And I said, look, I saw this guy do this trick with a cigarette. He goes, hold on, kid. This old guy's, hold on, like the Chicago accent. Hold on, kid, I'm going to tell you. Just wait a minute, kid. Let me show you. I'm not going to tell you how to do this until you pay me. I'm like, what? I was like, what is this, extortion? And it was, the motto was, the magic is told when the trick is sold, right? So he takes me in the back. He goes, here's what you need to do. So he does the trick for me, and I'm like, what? And then he shows me how to do it, and I was floored. And I was like, how much is this? $5. I want all of this. I want everything. So I bought this trick, and then it just sort of started and snowballed, and it was just a way to just have some fun. And then, like, when we would go, when I say TDY, temporary duty with a crew,
Yeah.
I have a deck of cards we're in the desert somewhere in some crappy country that doesn't like us and a lot of sand and heat. And we're sitting around in tents and I'm doing card tricks and just entertaining guys having fun. And then it kind of turned into like a sort of a paying hobby. I would do like kid shows. I would do stuff for the squadrons. I would do things. Now I say adult magic. That just bear with me here. When I would do kid shows, I wouldn't do like the needle through the arm trick.
Right.
You remember Harry Anderson? He used to do a needle through the arm trick, the guy from Night Court.
Yeah.
So I used to do that. I mean, you put a needle and you stick it here, and then it pops out the other side, and it bleeds, and it's really gross. And you don't do that at kids' parties. They tend to frown up.
I know a couple kids that.
But I would do stuff like that, and I've been doing it sort of as a hobby ever since. I haven't been doing very much of it lately, but knowing now Cassidy, he's a member of the Magic Circle here and the Magic Club
he's
here.
like the president.
Wait.
Right.
It's called the Magic Circle?
Well, that's part of one of the societies, but the linking ring.
This gets better and better.
Anyway, the linking ring. There's a bunch of things, but that you can get inducted into. But he's the president of the Magic Club here, and he's invited me to a couple of where professional magicians will come and show off, and they'll try to sell you stuff. But they do some of these amazing shows and stuff, and so I'm probably going to get into it a little bit more now.
That's really cool.
Yep.
So, I mean, you might think by the tone of voice and all that I'm mocking. This is excitement. This is sheer excitement.
Yeah.
It's called the Magic Ring. Like, really?
The Magic Circle, and
Or
then there's the linking ring. There are different magic societies that you have to be involved. You have to be a magician and be invited into.
Please tell me that they war. Did they war?
I don't know.
Or
Magic war.
now here's the
Cool.
thing. Does anything actually happen?
I can't tell you.
Now this one is kind of mocking. Is it all smoke and mirrors?
It's all smoke and mirrors, trap doors, smoke bombs, smoke
You're
bombs.
just like missing like how Tom is just like shaking his head at you right now.
Tom pictured right here.
But there are no kidding professional magic societies that you have to be invited into, and then you have to, and I'm sure there's an initiation or something, and there's like paddling.
Do you have to like prove your magicness?
I was invited a long time ago into the linking ring, and it was just they knew that I'd done this stuff before because we'd sit around the magic shop and try to out trick each other. Like, hey, that's good. And then try to outdo each other, kind of stuff. So they knew that I would do it, and I've actually done it semi-professionally. But I did it semi-professionally in Germany. So here's the cool part: I'm in a club doing some magic tricks, and I was TDY with a bunch of German guys, and I was doing some other magic stuff, just goofing around. And this guy sees me and goes, "Hey, I'd love to hire you for my birthday party." I was like, "Sure." So we go to this, come back, we go to Germany, and in the Netherlands there's this place called I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the name of it now. But it's a club or a restaurant where you could cook your own food if you want to. They have like raw meat and stuff, and you can cook it. It's like You Are Cooks. Remember that? Anyway, maybe that's an East Coast thing. But it was like a big banquet hall, and they would have, they call these giraffes. There's these long tubes that we fill with beer with a little tap at the end, that kind of stuff. So I'm in there doing magic and entertaining the table that I've been paid to do. And the owner of the place goes, "Do you want to work here?" So I was working there on weekends.
What?
Doing table magic, hopping back and forth between tables, just goofing around, having fun, making coin. So that was what I was doing in Germany when I was in my off time, basically being a magician, goofing off. And getting paid for it.
Now, say you wanted to go back to doing that.
Yeah.
Would it be in your best interest to join one of these?
I think so, because there's more of a network,
Okay.
So instead of just trying to do it by myself, they would know when things are coming up. They would probably know more people that would, that kind of stuff. And plus, it would benefit me. I would learn from them. Cassie, I'm sure he does things a lot better than I do. He's been doing it for a longer time, probably, or doing it more as a hobby / profession. So I would probably sit down and go, "Geez, that's really cool. Show me how to do that." We just go back and forth. So you learn from each other.
Now, is there a level that that you try to say you wanted to pursue this?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a level that you would try to do? Like, I'm going to start off working like parties and social events, and then work up to be a stage magician, or do you try to all right, I'm going to be a stage magician. It's a completely different animal than...
It's a completely different animal than what I do, because I do close-up stuff.
Right.
And the stage magician has the boxes, the props, and that's where you're getting into the coin.
Yeah.
So there's you've probably seen it. It's called a zigzag box. It's like you put your assistant in this box. It's at 3 levels.
Yeah.
And you cut them in thirds, and then you move the center box
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
That's like $5,000 for that box. That's used. They're expensive.
Yeah.
So when you get into that, we're talking a significant investment. Me, I would just walk around with a bag full of stuff and just goof around. That
Fair
kind
enough.
of thing.
So it is okay, I'm going to be this kind of guy.
It is it is a decision, definitely, from close-up magic to doing something like stage magic. It's a big leap.
Interesting. Yeah, because Kira and I took a trip to Branson this last weekend and caught a magic show.
Oh, cool.
And there was some of it that it was I'm not supposed to be seeing the mirror right
Oh,
there.
okay, that kind of thing.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, like it should have been a very impressive, but like
Sure.
we got front row seats.
Okay, cool.
And I'm the kind of guy that looks for all
I'm
the
a
stuff
skeptic. I'm a skeptic.
Well,
too,
like the new way of sawing the girl in half. Like there's
Oh, yeah.
that mirror that runs the back. So
Yeah.
so it was I see that now because they had to change it up because everyone knew.
Sure.
That the feet are in the bottom. But there are new variations on that trick, and this guy had really great contortionist assistants. Like it was
Yeah.
But it made me think of you of what level do you have to be at for that? And he had designed some of his tricks, and some of them were really clever that I might steal for some superhero school stuff.
Oh,
like
cool.
like where a thing is moving on the bottom and there's a mirror that
Right.
it looks like you're putting your hand through a blade.
Sure.
that
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing.
can do that.
Yeah.
And the way the mirror's angled and all that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Sure.
So, but it was I wonder if like you work your way up to that, or if you make the conscious decision to.
Well, you can. I mean, you can get away from the close-up stuff because that's a special technique, and if you want to get to the stage magic stuff, that's a separate, whole different animal, basically, because you're dealing with. Honestly, a lot of these magicians, when they do this stuff, their assistants do 99% of the work. And you have to get the right people, you got to get the right equipment, and you got to practice and look at all the angles, especially if you're up on stage and you got to watch that kind of stuff like you saw.
Well, because and I was wondering that the people in the side seats, because I was like dead center right in the middle, like I saw up this guy's nose.
Yeah.
Like he was right there.
Right.
And it was if the people over there,
Yeah.
could see that, like they could see
Everything. Yeah. The different angles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even someone asked me once, they said, if you watch a show, like I've been to see Penn and Teller probably a dozen times. Love those guys. And if you see a show, but you know how the trick is done, does that diminish it? And I was like, not for me, because, I know how they do it, but it's the presentation, how they do it. It's the stage. It's the whole, the theatrics of it all. And that's what makes it for me, even though I know how to do it, but I don't quite do it that way because everybody puts their own twist on it.
Right.
And there's certain tricks that are out there that, I know how it's done, but it's really cool the way he does it. And it's really neat the way that's lit and presented and, that kind of stuff. So that's another thing. That's another part of that stage magic, the lighting, the presentation. It's just a whole different animal. And when you make that jump, that's a whole different set of skills.
So then you have to micromanage, like.
Yeah. I want the music cue at this point, the light cue at this point. This has to be here. We have to move this. So it's a lot of moving, literally moving parts.
Fascinating.
That you have to do. Yeah.
Interesting. And then like you say, the bag of tricks.
Oh yeah.
Now, last magic question.
Okay,
Unless
no problem.
Stephanie has stuff for like the I believe they're called the mind blowing trick. Like, how far in advance do you have to do the subliminal plants or that kind of thing, or do you, or how much of it is just, man, I hope they guess this.
Well, when it comes,
or is that too
like mentalism kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, let me tell you a trick that I did. So what I did was I mailed an envelope to my commander and said, "Do not open this until the squadron party." He said, "Okay, great." So we get to the squadron party. I come up on stage, and I had asked two other people to join me. And I said, "Sir, do you still have the envelope?" "Yes, it's mailed, postmarked, and you have not opened it?" "No, I want you to please open it here now." And he opens it up, and there's a little manila envelope inside. And I said, "Earlier today, I made 3 predictions." I said, I asked someone for their favorite food. I asked someone for, I forget what it was, their favorite, or to pick a card and remember it. And then I made a prediction of today's headline in the New York Times. So I had the 3 people come up. The commander had the thing, and the 2 other people, and I had him open the envelope. And I had him turn it upside down and drop 3 pieces of paper into my hand. I never touched them. They just dropped in my hand. And I asked the first person, "What was your favorite card?" 3 of clubs. There's 3 of clubs written on a piece of paper. I said, "What's your favorite meal?" "Hamburger." There's a hamburger. I said, "And that is the prediction of today's headline in the New York Times." I had a copy of the New York Times, and it was word for word. Word for word. And it was mailed a week prior. it takes a little setup and it takes a little doing, but that is one of my favorite tricks to do in a large group. So, yeah, it takes a little setup, but there's some chicanery involved, and I'm not going to get into it. But, yeah, it takes a little setup, yes.
Okay. So, but I mean, for the quick interaction.
Oh, there's a couple things like that are just...
Is it body language or is it things that you say?
There's a lot of ways you can set something up. I mean, I don't do a whole lot of mentalism, and if I do any mentalism stuff, I have complete control over it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But there are other people that are predictive things that people... It's 90% of people will say this word when you say this thing, and sometimes it works, and if it doesn't, you move on, go to something else quickly. That kind of thing.
So it's like painting a picture. There's a whole bunch of different ways to go about it.
Yes.
And the way that you go about it and the way that I would go about it could be two completely different things. And then
how you want to approach it and how you want.
Okay, so like you might be all body language, and I might be saying like, "Man, it looks pretty 3 out there today."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there are so many different ways to do that, and there's some guys, and Max Maven, who's a great mentalist, and they do just some amazing stuff, and just you're like, wow, this is pretty crazy. How does that happen? But like the thing that I did, it was set up, and it was a little bit of chicanery as well. But no stooges though. The people that asked questions were, no kidding, pulled out of the audience.
Cool.
So yeah.
What's your favorite trick that you've pulled?
Well, one of the things I love to do, that was my signature trick when I was in the bars in the Netherlands, so the trick is I have a deck of cards. You take any card you want, free choice, and you sign your name to the card. And the front of the face of the card, I shuffle it back in the deck, and then I wrap the deck in a rubber band. I hold the deck in my hand, and then I throw the deck onto the ceiling. The pack strikes the ceiling. The pack falls to the ground, still wrapped in the rubber band, except for one card stuck on the ceiling, and it's got your name on it. That's my favorite go-to trick. And I did that so many times in this bar that I hung out in the Netherlands. By the time I left, there's probably 24 decks of cards on the ceiling. It was great. And the owner was like, "This is awesome." And he had his whole ceiling covered in cards with names on them. It's one of my favorite things to do.
That's really cool.
Yeah. That was my signature thing. Pardon the pun.
I get it.
Zing.
All right. How's this? Let's bring it back to the comics.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
You had mentioned your love for John Byrne,
Yes.
which excellent choice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Man, he in my opinion, he's Mr. Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, his run on any Marvel title in the 80s, like, there was a point that I would come up here and sought out specific issues of John Byrne. I bought the Overstreet before I even realized that it was just a price guide, because I knew that it had the little key at the back saying, like if there was an artist or writer you were trying to follow, it would say like, issues by or written by, that kind of thing. So I tracked down as much John Byrne anything as I could.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. And I remember I actually met him here in Oklahoma. This was back in 89, 90, something like that. And I forget what comic shop, forgive me. But he had signed some Next Men stuff for me and some other things that were going on that I loved. And he did like Babe, and he did She-Hulk, and he did Superman and Captain America. He did a bunch of different things. But my go-to thing was the X-Men. This was the Hellfire Club and all that stuff. My brother and I read those, and we couldn't wait for the next one. It was like, oh, God, we have to get that. And it was my favorite. And just love his work. And you could tell immediately, just style. Fantastic Four. I mean, some of those were great.
Oh, yeah, in my opinion, like I mean, the purists and the people that haven't actually sat down and read the everything will do the Lee Kirby stuff is the greatest, best. It's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There are some really truly great things, but man, the John Byrne Fantastic Four run is the best comics. Like,
yeah, I there was one called, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a guy who he could change things with his mind. Make it never was. I remember that was the last thing. He could change things with his mind, and I can't remember. What
do you mean the guy that didn't realize that he was doing all that?
Yes.
What was that called? That was issue, I think, 236.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, listen, I read them so often, and that they all kind of run together. Like I'm lucky to know. I know that 232, started off his writer artist.
Right.
Like he did the art for a few issues before, but 232 is the first issue that he wrote and drew himself and did all that, which honestly is my favorite comic book.
Okay.
Like, yeah, and then from there, he explored not only just the Fantastic Four themselves, but the world that has to react to, the Fantastic Four being there and all the changes, and then the oddities like that story.
Yeah.
That, man, only the Fantastic Four can really handle this.
Oh yeah.
Like if the Avengers or X-Men that were here, they would either make things worse or they would end up calling the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just that story sticks in my head, and I just remember the last line of the comic was "Make it never was," and then it went all back to normal.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cool.
Oh yeah, he was so good with the little quirky things.
Yep.
Like he would heavily hint that Impossible Man and Mr. Mixius Spitlick were the same person.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there was a lot of that.
Anytime that Mixius Spitlick would leave, he was like, "Well, I'm off to bother those four bozos." or whenever Impossible Man would leave, you're like, "Oh, I'm off to go bother Big Red." I was like, "Oh man, this is great!
This is cool stuff."
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So, when you're looking for like old back issues or anything to read, anything with John Byrne's name on it before, I'd say 94, like his X-Men: The Hidden Years is really the last okay thing that he did.
Yeah, I got onto the Next Men thing, and that was okay. It was, but it did have the first, appearance of Hellboy. So
yes,
that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and he co-wrote the first Hellboy story.
Yeah,
and I'd say that's probably the last like really great thing that he did. Like he's kind of not that great of a storyteller anymore, and his art, he's just kind of phoning it in. Although he's been posting new stuff, and it looks like he's finally taking time
back on track.
There's a rumor that he might come back to X-Men.
Ooh.
Yeah, according to Marvel, there's been no, how do they put it, no formal negotiations or formal talks.
Okay.
But, people on his side have alleged that it's a done deal. So that's exciting.
Yeah, well, sign me up.
Yeah.
I'll definitely take that. Yeah, like I said, this was one of the big things in the 80s, and then I kind of dropped out of comics because I joined the military.
Yeah.
So then 10 years go by, and I come back from Desert Storm, been there 6-7 months, come back to Oklahoma, which is, to me, green and lush compared to that. And I went to the comic shop down there on Penn and 74th. I forget the name of it now. It's long gone. But
Yeah.
and I walk in, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Just walk in, it's like, I don't know any of this stuff. I have no clue where to begin. And I don't want to ask anybody because I feel like an idiot. But then I looked over and I saw this comic, and it was a red and yellow cover, and it said Scud. And I thought, I know what Scuds are. What? The Disposable Assassin? This sounds interesting. Picked it up, man. That was it. And I started reading that comic, and then got into then it was like Spawn and a bunch of other things I kind of got fumbling around with. But that was what got me back into comics again, was Scud the Disposable Assassin.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Scud so much. How I got into Scud was there was a picture of issue number 9 in Wizard magazine, and it's a picture, like it was this little thumbnail picture that they printed, and it looked like there was a Scud action figure.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can buy a toy
that
is your comic book? I have to find this thing.
Yeah.
It looks like it's cover price. I'm getting an action figure of Scud for, let's do this. I don't even know what Scud is. He's going to be amazing. And I came here and they didn't have the issue, but they had other issues. So I bought them anyway.
Right.
And oh my God.
Yeah, they're hilarious.
Yeah.
They're absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, and they finally have it all back in print.
Yeah.
Like they have what's called the whole shebang. And it's written and drawn by Rob Schraub.
Yeah.
And he quit comics for a while and then got into TV.
Yeah, what show was he doing? I forgot it was.
He directed. He wrote and directed some episodes of Community. He did the Sarah Silverman show. He worked on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Wow.
Like he's good friends with Dan Harmon and that crew.
Okay.
So yeah, like he's done everything. And if y'all get a chance, look up on YouTube. I think it's the only place you can find it anymore. Robot Bastard. It's this short film that he did, and it's this robot that has to save like the president's daughter. It's amazing.
I gotta see. I gotta find that.
And it's very much what inspired a lot of what I do. It's they did some stop motion animation, and then they had like the bad guys. Some of them are just guys wrapped up in trash bags. and he himself, he is a spray painted like set of cardboard boxes.
That's awesome.
And
man.
Roblox.
it's so good.
That's funny.
Oh my god!
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, you definitely do. It's 20 minutes at most. Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah.
Can't wait.
But what else?
So then I got into comics, and then I started coming back in here, and I was kind of same kind of thing. I mean, I've been out of it, sort of in and out for a while. And I was like, what's good? And then I started. I was talking to you, and I was like, okay, Buck, what's good? And then you said Scalped, so I was like, all right, I'll try it. And I'm on book 4, I think, right now. But this is a great story.
Oh yeah,
it is a fantastic story. I recommend it to anybody. And I think who else would recommend it on the show?
Oh, Flowers.
Flowers, right?
Yeah.
He brought it up.
I told you the story about that, right?
No.
Okay, so Flowers likes to sit around and recommend like whenever we're hanging out and someone's talking, like I'll recommend for the people just getting into stuff.
Sure.
Usually something Marvel or DC because that'll kind of lead you into the other stuff.
The expanded universe,
I mean, unless you walk in and I can kind of peg you as like, oh, you're an indie guy. Oh,
Okay.
you're a Western. Oh, you're horror. You're this.
Sure.
I was recommending some kind of darker stuff, and he says, "Oh, Scalped," and I know Scalped's great, but I look over him just super deadpan and like, "Oh, Scalped is terrible. Scalped's just awful.
What?
Why would you? What kind of trash are you trying to sell this guy? This is the worst." And Flowers is just getting so upset, just so
More gas. More
mad.
gas. More gas on the fire.
So of course, I press on.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Press the test. See how far this is going to
Yeah.
go.
So, he's just sitting there looking at me, and he's about to say something. He's just so mad, and then then I crack a little smile because I couldn't hold it any longer. Swear words came out. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
He's like, you got me. You son of you got me. Yeah, because I'm really pretty good with the deadpan, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You got me a couple of times.
Yep, it's fun. But yeah, with Flowers, like I had never got him until that point.
Okay. Good one.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
good
then
one.
for ever since then, Scalped is the first thing that he recommends, and he'll eyes dart over at me just to see if yeah.
That kind of thing. No, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Like I said, I'm not through the entire series yet.
Yeah, which
Really good.
I liken it to like The Sopranos on Native American reservation.
Exactly. Yeah. The same kind of whole kingpin kind of thing. And yeah, I really, and it's just so well done.
Yeah, and it's written by Jason Aaron, and just about anything that you see with his name on it is going to be the best comics you've read. He's writing the Avengers right now. My favorite thing that he did was Weird World, which is something out of the Secret Wars miniseries that Marvel came out, and a lot of people see that and like, oh, it's those throwaway stories, and oh no,
Yeah.
it's the best Conan ever. And
Really?
it's not Conan, but
Yeah.
like it's Archon who's
Cool.
not Conan. Yeah, it's great. I should be getting some more of those in on Friday.
Okay. Check that out.
Yeah. Look at me selling stuff.
Hey, go figure. What do you have here? Comics. Things for sale.
But oh my god, it's absolutely my favorite.
Cool. Yeah, and then it was Planetary was another one you recommended. I'm reading that or finishing up that one up, which is great. Starts off. I just like it's got to be a great movie.
So, have you read Mr. Miracle?
You know what? I have not read one yet. I'm keeping them all until was it 12 issues total?
Yeah.
When's the 12th one out? Is it already out?
The end of this month.
Okay, so I'm going to get them all 12 together.
Oh, and then read them all
and I'm
together.
going to read them all together. I'm gonna just binge read all of them because I've heard nothing but good things about them from you guys. So I'm like, I'm just gonna hold off.
My biggest fear right now is that like the 12th issue is just going to not
live up to the
live up to the build up. But like right now, the build up to everything is my god, it's the best thing Tom King's done. Which I mean, honestly, I need to get you to read. Oh my god, I am blanking on the Sheriff of Babylon.
Okay.
Oh my god, yeah, because he's ex-CIA.
Oh.
So he was
really?
over there
In real life?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Jeez. My cops guys are so
Yeah, from what I hear, like he had to submit this thing to the
yeah,
CIA
right.
to like make sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said that the whole story is based on his experiences or things that he saw or things that he heard from like super reliable sources, like
and the craziness that was over there.
yeah,
Okay.
and it's such a moving story. Like it's I don't want to say that it's not political because it is, but it's told from such a true perspective that it's not the here are my political feelings. It's political just because of the subject matter.
It's political because I got here because of something political, and this is what I'm doing in my little world right now.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
And it's such a good story.
So, Sheriff of Babylon.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to check that out then.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Definitely
selling more stuff. Yeah. And then another one that because I grew up with the Hanna-Barbera stuff, like the Herculoids and Space Ghost and that kind of stuff. And then when this came out, and it's been a while, I can't remember when this actually came out, but it was I think a 5-run.
5 or 6 issue, yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. And it was just the origin story, basically, of Space Ghost, and it was great.
Yeah.
And I loved that. That was so cool.
Well, and
true to the original.
Yeah, because at the time, before this and at the time, Cartoon Network started up and they got the rights to use whatever Hanna-Barbera, whatever they wanted to.
Right.
So they made Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Which,
which is amazing.
Which is amazing, but it laughs in the face at something that could have been really, really great, but
Yeah. But part of me was like, I was kind of resentful of that happening because, like, oh, come on. But it was well written.
It's unfortunately good, but and then you go back to this and it takes them seriously, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was a great story, and like the origin story of this whole thing and how it came about, and I just loved it.
Well, yeah,
devoured it.
It's written by Joe Kelly, who. I claim as the creator of Deadpool. Like, I know that everyone would argue that Fabian Nicieza, that
guy,
and Nicieza and Rob Liefeld, like they first wrote and drew him, but Joe Kelly's the one who made him like the funny guy who
Fleshed
breaks
him
the
out and
fourth
made
wall
him,
and does the because like there's a Deadpool action figure that I have here in the store that talks about what a silent killer he is and how he lets his people go because they're going to tell everyone what a crazy silent killer he was and how serious he is. Like it says that, like it says silent killer. Yeah, and then Joe Kelly's run. He was the merc with the mouth. And,
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great line. I love that.
Yeah, and then Ariel Olivetti. I love anything painted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing artwork.
Yeah, which
it looks so good.
I first encountered the Ariel Olivetti on the Last Avengers story, which is one of my absolute favorite Avengers stories, which unfortunately isn't in print currently. Yeah,
but I'm sure Buck could get it for you.
Man, if only. I would hope to.
For a few dollars.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Being a pitch man over here.
But yeah, this Space Coast stuff is phenomenal.
I love it.
Yeah, even if you love just the Coast to Coast stuff, you should read it and just, imagine this guy turning into that guy.
Yeah, no. Somewhat really off the rails. And then the only thing I was going to bring up was the Dark Knight. I remember reading the first Dark Knight, and it was just a sea change of everything that, it's like, okay, I'm used to Batman and the way he was, and now this, and it's like, ooh, I really kind of like that. That's kind of cool, and he's just a badass. And sorry, can we say that? Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But I just like that whole dark universe, his whole persona, the whole. And then Dark Knight 2 and Dark Knight 3, and I just loved all that stuff.
Yeah, which kind of ushered in the wave of grim and gritty.
Yeah,
comics.
right.
Yeah, we're finally on the way out of. Well, I mean, we're well out of the way, but it still kind of has some staying power.
Sure.
And
sometimes too much of a good thing. They just kind of stuck around a little bit. I don't know. It could be if the whole genre turns into that. It's like, oh god, really another dark?
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, Frank Miller definitely. Did quite a bit for comics. Yeah. Time hasn't really been kind to his,
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that he talks about women and all that stuff.
No.
But there's a lot of good stuff that he did bring to the table there.
Sure,
So.
yeah, and then I appreciate that.
Well, yeah,
definitely.
I think that wraps up that. I suppose we have time enough for a store story right quick. All right,
cool.
So. The one that I want to tell about now is probably 4 years into working here. I was told that the carpets had never been cleaned.
And how long had the store been here?
The store had been here in that location since '89.
And when was this?
This would have been 2009.
What lives in this?
A lot.
Well, okay,
But
so-
this is a funny story.
Well, okay, so
I'm afraid.
the boss was out of town, and we knew that he was out of town for 3 days, and it was during the summer, and we knew it was going to be super hot, no rain, whatever. So I got some of my buddies up here, and we took all of the comic boxes up off the floor and put them on top of the, like, at the time there were 2 big long tables of comics, and then there was like a tunnel of toys,
Okay.
right? And the one table of comics, which is now the Image and Silver Age and the DC, all that was one table.
Oh.
And it ran the length of the store. So everything got put up on top of that. And then on the other side of the store was the Dark Horse and Image and that kind of stuff. And we had the tunnel of toys kind of breaking everything up.
Okay.
So we took everything up off the floor, and I bought a wet vac. And I cleaned the carpet.
Okay.
And
Well done you.
Yeah, if you look at the 2 sides of the store, because we're technically 2 bays.
Right.
So we cleaned the dark side of the carpet first.
Right. Which I see there.
And a lot of people actually don't notice that it's
Okay.
2 different
I really didn't
shades.
notice until you just pointed
Yeah.
it out.
Right. So when we cleaned that side, it was the same shade as the uncleaned light side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we got this, the lighter half, and then we got the bathroom.
Okay.
And we were told to use the white vinegar.
Okay. Well.
Because I didn't want any like weird chemicals. I didn't want any weird reactions.
Sure. Sure.
And like I did my research on the machine to make sure like it wouldn't spray any water on anything. And
Okay.
I talked to everyone and I found the different tricks, like, oh, you can use a little spray bottle like around the edges.
yeah.
You can do all this. I said, what about like the really tough areas? Because like the bathroom at the time had black carpet. Yeah, it was just awful.
Yeah.
So I poured an entire gallon of white vinegar on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through, sprayed the store, and then we vacuumed everything up, and it looked wonderful.
Cool.
Then we got to the bathroom. Like we had to dump out all the liquid from the store, which the whole store was like a gallon and a half.
Wow.
It was surprisingly little.
I think it'd be more, but okay.
Yeah, but which we had white vinegar to go around.
Okay.
But so we we vacuumed up the liquid out of the bathroom, and it took several goes. Every time we poured it out, it was matte black. Like there was absolutely no sheen.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the grossest
Ugh.
thing ever.
Set on fire.
But yeah, so we had finally cleaned that, and at the time it was like 3 a.m. because we started as soon as we closed.
Okay.
It was 7:01, the door was locked, and we were moving
And off
stuff,
you go,
doing
right.
stuff. So we finally got to about 3 a.m. Because we couldn't not be open the next day.
Right. Right.
So we're just going to leave the doors open, and we were all just going to party here
Okay.
that night.
Sure.
And,
Let it dry out. Yeah.
yeah. So we had finished dumping out all the bathroom water, and we were ready to just kind of relax. We hear this loud crack. We rush out into the front. The entire table of Marvel and DC had collapsed in on itself from the extra weight of putting everything on the bottom.
Oh no.
Yeah. So here I am, like, yeah. Yeah, I was just old enough to drive and all that stuff, and we didn't know, like, it was oh God, what do we do? So we pulled all the stuff off and looked at it, and sure enough, straight down the middle, like it was built and designed to support one level of comics,
Right.
not 2.
God.
So we were like, oh God, what do we do? Because, Walmart didn't sell lumber.
Yeah. No kidding.
Any place that sold lumber opened at like 7.
Yeah. You got a few hours.
And then it was if we get it at 7, then we have to cut the lumber and gets, then we have to assemble everything. We're not going to open on time if we do this. Oh God, what are we going to do?
Nightmare.
Yeah. Luckily, one of the guys there says, my dad just disassembled the shed in the back, and it's mostly lumber. Do you want him to bring up stuff? Like, everything's pre-cut. I'm
Yes,
not sure.
please.
Yeah. And then one of the guys was like, I have a hacksaw. And we said, why do you have a hacksaw? No reason.
Yeah, I just have a bag of lime in the back of my car. And,
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. And then we got all the lumber up here. We have the saw. We're measuring things. We're getting everything ready. And then we realize, oh, no, we don't have a drill.
Ugh.
So then I'm racking my brain like, oh God, what are we gonna do? This time, by this point it's 5 a.m.
Oh, when do you open?
The store was gonna open at noon.
Oh,
But it was I'm supposed to work tomorrow and open.
yeah, and I haven't slept.
Yeah, I haven't slept. I'm going to be absolutely worthless tomorrow.
Yeah,
Like, this is not a good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm racking my brain. We're like, wait a minute. My dad's a carpenter. Why did I? Oh my God! So I called up my dad, who at the time woke up like right at 5.
All right.
Dad, can you come up here with your drill and some screws? And yeah, okay, no problem.
Cool.
So he comes up, lends it the drill, and one of the guys just magically threw everything together and fixed everything, and the plywood from the shed.
Right.
We got on the it was
Perfect.
yeah, it was one of those that we got everything done by 9 a.m. I went home, slept for an hour and a half, came back, and
God. Zombie day.
yeah,
Oh
but
my God.
yeah, that was the time that we cleaned the carpets.
Jeez, what did the owner ever know? Did you
He-
tell him?
Well, I told him that we cleaned the carpets.
Okay. Good
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Hey, look, it's nice and clean.
Yep.
And nothing happened to the comics. Absolutely nothing.
Well, we checked the boxes and thank God nothing was damaged. Like no
Wow.
bent corners on anything. Like everything
Jeez.
fell. Like it was like an immaculate collapse.
Perfect V. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like everything had just perfectly rested against itself.
You're lucky.
Oh, oh, I'm so lucky. Like every bit of this, it's the. Man, I could have damaged this. I could have done
Yeah,
that. Like
no
I
kidding.
didn't really know what I was doing, but yeah, it was just all sheer luck.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that just from cleaning the carpets.
Just from
Jeez.
cleaning the carpets.
Jeez.
So with that fascinating story of carpet cleaning, that's been New World Comics podcast. Steve, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you. Stephanie, thanks for being here.
Thank
You're
you for having
amazing.
me.
Voice of God, Brad Reed from Nerds to Men fame,
Brad.
Peace be with you.
And with you.
and Whitney. Thank you for editing this and doing all the fun things like putting pictures right here. Oh.
She's
See y'all
gonna hate
next time on New World Comics Podcast.
you. Bye-bye.